Hello and welcome from Detroit, Michigan. My name is Whitney Clark, and I am so grateful that you are with me tonight. It is Labor Day weekend 2025. What a wonderful opportunity for us to be together. It's obvious as we are entering into the fall season. You know, it feels like after back to school, everything from there, it's like you blink and then it's the holidays, it's the New Year's. And if it's an election year, that means this time is going to be running in the background while we are busy doing a number of other things. And so the question that we are asking ourselves is, can Kinloch catch Mary? Can a pastor, Solomon Kinloch Jr. of the Triumph Church here in Detroit, Michigan, or Metro Detroit, I believe 7 locations, at least 9 services in Metro Detroit, one of the biggest churches in the country, I believe, at least 40,000 members, I believe. That it appears as though has nothing to do, it's not translating in any way uh, to his campaign. And there there is some sharp criticism coming uh, in the direction of his campaign, because it's very hard for his surrogates to make a case as to why voters should vote for Kinloch for mayor. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to close the gap. But I want to do what only I can do. I want to make a case for Kinloch. I want to imagine myself as his crisis manager. And I want to talk about what's going to need to take place in order for him to come back and close the gap, this insurmountable gap. It seems to be insurmountable. He needs a few things to take place. So let's jump behind the curtains and talk about what exactly Kinloch is going to need in order to catch Mary Sheffield. The first thing he's going to need is an army. And I don't mean that facetiously. I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean that because, well, this is a Detroit election. And if you are trying to do something in a city like Detroit, if you're trying to start a political movement, if you're trying to get a group of people to support what it is that you're doing, then one of the first questions that you're going to have to answer is, who else is doing it? See, Kinloch needs every other mayoral candidate who did not make it to the ballot to support him, because, quite frankly, this is a popularity contest. And in order for people to feel justified, those who did not vote for Mary the first time, in order for them to feel justified in voting for Kinloch, they're going to need to see an army of people coming out to support Kinloch. That's what we're going to need. And we haven't seen it, given that the primary was August the 5th, and we are now, as this video is being recorded, August the 31st. And so we should have seen some big name endorsements. I believe Jenkins would do a great deal. Todd Perkins would do a great deal if they jumped behind Kinloch. But it doesn't seem as though he's going to get those endorsements. But we're going to remain hopeful for the duration of this episode, because I do want to imagine that he could actually close the gap and make this a competitive mayoral race. That's what we want this to be. We want it to be competitive. So let's hope that he'll get some endorsements. Well, we know one endorsement that he won't get, because he didn't get it. It was the Council of Baptist Pastors and Ministers in Vicinity Incorporated, I believe. I don't want to butcher the name, but it was the essentially the ministers here in the city of Detroit, the pastors of the Baptist churches here in the city of Detroit, in the vicinity, the area here in Detroit. And so they decided to support Mary Sheffield. And the surrogates for Pastor Kinloch came out of the woodworks and had some sharp criticism, interesting criticism. And I am affiliated, I guess by proxy, to the Baptist, Pastors Council, of Detroit, da 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 da. And so to hear Bankolay, we're about to go to a video and we're going to talk on the other end of it. To hear Bankolay go in the way that he did was pretty fascinating. Let's check out one of these videos that Bankolay is talking about as a response to the endorsement that the Baptist pastors and ministers of Detroit gave to Mary Sheffield instead of Pastor Kinloch. Again, Pastor Kinloch, in theory, we would like to think that he would have gotten the endorsement from the pastors here in the city of Detroit. But they instead decided to go with Mary Sheffield, who notably is a licensed minister. I saw a clip of her preaching some time ago. Very underwhelming, but she's, hey, she's leaning into the politics and she's a strong politician, but I don't know. Well, anyway, she wasn't that bad, but she wasn't good as a preacher. God bless her heart, but she can't be good at everything. Nevertheless, she's good enough for the Baptist pastors to support, because again, she's not running to be the pastor of Detroit. She's running to be the mayor of Detroit. And I believe that she's well suited for that job. Kinloch, quite frankly, I could see how he could be, if he could run the city like his churches, it would be successful. But I'm a firm believer that a campaign is a telltale sign of how someone's going to be in office, right? So if you suck as a candidate, why should I think that you're going to be a star on this level because you are a star on that level? Like, you're auditioning for this level right now and you're not doing well. And I'm not trying to beat up on Kinloch, but I'm just disappointed. And you're about to see Bankolay try to discredit the endorsement that the pastors give, and he gives some pretty good criticism. We'll pick it apart, and we won't be able to pick all of it apart because some of it will be valid. But I want to get into this because it's very fascinating to hear Bankolay's take on this endorsement. Let's take a look.
Now they finally reached a deal or cut a deal with Mike Duggan. But the Baptist Council of Baptist Pastors, the Council of Baptist Pastors, and these other pastors in the city, have you heard them formed any kind of coalition against the over $600 million overtaxation of Detroit homeowners? Where is that? Where's the...
So what he's trying to establish here is that basically he's saying, how dare you even come together and use your voice? Whenever you use your voice, you use it for the weirdest, craziest things. Why haven't you spoke up about the overtaxation of $600 million, this wave of evictions or foreclosures, should I say, as a result of improper assessments? And so he's making the case as to, again, these are questions that he's asking, and obviously with his tone, he is establishing the fact that or the theory, or his perspective at least, that their endorsement is it doesn't mean much.
Pastors Coalition against $600 million overtaxation of Detroit homeowners? Where's the Pastors Coalition against random, water shutoffs in Detroit and so forth? Where's the Pastors Coalition against the foreclosure crisis in Detroit? Where's the Pastors Coalition against the economic gentrification of Detroit? Where's the Pastors Coalition against the concentration of wealth in downtown, midtown, and Corktown. Where is the pastors' coalition against the high cost of living in Detroit? Think about it.
Okay. Doesn't feel
But
like
this
they
group,
are speaking up.
the Detroit Council of Baptist Pastors and Vicinity, is a group that has been struggling for relevance. It is a group that is irrelevant.
I'm gonna come back to that one.
But right
He
now,
went
as it
in.
stands, in my view, the Baptist Council, the Detroit Council of Baptist Pastors, don't stand for anything really significant. That's
No,
my opinion.
Okay, wait.
Others
Let
may
me
say,
just go
well,
back.
no, I mean, that's their choice. And of course,
Let's
it's
go back to
stated.
the second one.
But this group, the Detroit Council of Baptist Pastors and Vicinity, is a group that has been struggling for relevance. It is a group that is irrelevant in the eyes of many people.
Here's my thing. They're going to be relevant because in this context, you maintain your relevance by being on the right side of history. And I think they can see what you can't see, my dear brother. And that is that you don't have a candidate that's willing to give you what you need to spend and create that. Now, you can't even gain traction because you don't have a candidate that's putting in that amount of work. And I'm not even blaming him because as a candidate, the former candidate, man, this is about your team. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about what he needs to win. The first thing that we've established is that he needs some people to support him. He needs some more endorsements. He needs people to speak up on his behalf, preferably those other individuals who run for mayor. We need to see those people begin to come out of the woodworks and support him. Let's listen to a little bit more Bankolay's position here.
To me, it only exists in name only. They only exist in name only. They are irrelevant. Because there are many issues affecting Detroit. Many issues. What's their take on the comeback of the city? Now, have they ever come out against Mike Duggan, aside from the drainage fees, because that affects their churches, right? You gotta run a church, you gotta do the offertory, pick collection, and all that stuff. So you need a church to have all of that. So they did that. But right now, as it stands, in my view, the Baptist Council, the Detroit Council of Baptist Pastors, don't stand for anything really significant. That's my opinion. The $600 million overtaxation of Detroit homeowners. Did you see the Council of Baptist Pastors stand up and say something to Mayor Duggan about that? No, they will not. And I believe, this is my opinion, I believe that.
And I think this is a great chance for the council to see. Here's my thing, as on an individual level, I will look at someone criticize me who doesn't know me, who is malicious in their intent as far as I can see, visibly under the influence of something, quite frankly, and uninformed about who I am as a person. And if they can articulate a criticism, I'm still going to pass it by the does any of this resonate meter. I'm going to do it almost every, like, of course, the person that I analogized was a very extreme person, right? But what I'm really saying is that when you have someone like Bankolay, who is an informed voice, who knows what he's talking about, when he levels this type of criticism, yes, you get it. He's going for the other side. He sounds like he's trying to be a shock in this moment. But nevertheless, you still should ask yourself if this is valid. Are we losing our fastball? Are we really still fighting for the issues that matter to our communities? That's okay. Listen. And if you're not willing to ask yourself that question sincerely, considering that you may be in the wrong or that you may have gotten this wrong, or that you may have gotten off the beaten path, or that you may be, if you're not willing to consider that, then you are a prime suspect, or should I say you are the most vulnerable for being guilty of just that. And so again, this type of criticism offers us an opportunity to look in the mirror if we want to. Now we know Bankole is, again, he's he's it would be easy to be personally offended by his disposition. I get that, because he's going directly at these ministers, and ministry work is serious work. And one could very easily and quite frankly very fairly say, who the hell do you think you are to criticize the men of God? How dare you? Someone could say that, and quite frankly, our emotionalism paralyzes us in a way that doesn't allow us to engage in a fruitful way with the criticism and find an opportunity to improve. Two things could be true. He could be disrespectful and demeaning while still saying something that gives us an opportunity to improve what we're doing. Because I'd like to see the Baptist Council speak up a little bit more. I'd like to see them be a little bit younger. I'd like to see them be a little bit more open to the voices even that exist inside of their, space there. There's obviously room for improvement. And so don't just be offended. I think that's a weak cop out. I think that's very weak, and it's a sign of low intelligence. And so if you see him saying this, and you're just flabbergasted, and you're like, oh my God, how dare it? Cut him off. I will never talk to him again. He'll never be invited to my church again. If that's like the end result of what you're hearing, then you're emotionally immature. And that goes, unfortunately, with love and respect to you, even as a man or woman of God. This is an opportunity for us to look in the mirror, because he's saying something here. We don't know where it's coming from, but it's
They're
something.
afraid of Mike Duggan. When
Afraid
we
of
had
Mike
the
Duggan.
$600 million overtaxation of Detroit homeowners, it became a major issue.
Yeah,
I
he
talked
don't need
about it. I
600
talked
mil.
about it on the radio. I wrote columns in the Detroit News about it. Almost every column, back to back, during that period, mentioned it. We held forums at Wayne County Community College District to talk about the overtaxation, the $600 million overtaxation of Detroit homeowners. Where was the Detroit Council of Baptist Pastors and Vicinity? They were nowhere to be found. Are they cowards? You tell me. Yeah. Others may
Gang
say,
was
well,
playing.
no. I mean, that's their choice. And of course, it's their choice to endorse who they want. But what I want to talk about is the endorsement, what it means. I, for one, I'm not a big fan of endorsements. I really don't believe in it. I've talked about it. Sometimes endorsements are much ado about anything.
It's just hard to imagine who he would have been, how he would have felt had they endorsed Kinloch. You know what I mean? Um, Nevertheless, Kinloch's going to need a couple of things. So let's spend the rest of our time together talking about what I think Kinloch's going to need to do in order to catch up with Mary Sheffield. And I think that he can close the gap, but it's going to take some political will. It really is. The first thing that he's going to have, as we mentioned a few moments ago, he's going to have some key endorsements, rather. I'm about to say nominations. He's going to have some key endorsements, preferably sooner than later. And it needs to be everybody that ran for mayor that did not, that's not Mary Sheffield, quite frankly. Everybody that ran for mayor needs to endorse Kinloch. And they need to do it, again, today is Labor Day weekend. They need to do it soon. That's one of the things that you're going to need to see in order for Kinloch to close this gap. Second thing Kinloch's going to need is, quite frankly, someone new in his team. Kinloch has a very narrow group of people, and I'm speaking philosophically, like I'm pretty sure his campaign meetings are extremely peaceful. You know, the hierarchy is set, the order is established, and there isn't a way to shake things up. Like you should have seen an increase in something with Kinloch after the primary. There should have been like a okay, that was the first half. We figured out what we got to do in order to make like close this gap, and here's what we're this is what we're doing with the rest of the time that we have, and we haven't seen that, and I think it's as a result of his team. You know what I mean? He is pastoring, and so he needs a team that can brush his talking points up because his talking points are too shallow. I was talking to a prominent pastor today in the city of Detroit. Um, his talking points, Kinloch, we're speaking about, he doesn't have the type of political talking points that will resonate with people outside of the church experience. But outside of the very churchy experience, particularly those who are voters here in the city, this is a very eclectic, liberal, democratic city. People who are in no way religiously adjacent. And so you saying that the prophetic proclamation of prophecy and pastoral prowess will be the thing that allows you to be a great mayor at such a majestic moment in a Michigan. It's like it doesn't resonate. It doesn't move people because who Kinloch is going for. Because I've heard people pontificators try to make it seem like you know he could be going for the voters that Todd had, and the voters that Fred Durhal III had, and the voters that Jenkins had. And I think it's extremely naive to think that he's going to get a vastly large percentage of those votes greater than Mary. Let's just be sober minded and say that he's going to get half of the votes and she's going to get half. Okay? That does nothing as far as this gap is concerned. So then, if we are speaking from a political science perspective, we see that we're going to have to engage people who did not vote because that's the other story. One story was how many more votes Mary got than everybody, and then the second story, or vice versa, was the low voter turnout. So that means Kinloch is going to have to vote for the go rather aim for the people who did not vote in that election. Now we know there's going to be a greater percentage or a greater amount of people that vote in the general, right? Just in general, right? But in theory, Mary should get the same percentage increase, and maybe Kinloch will get the same percentage increase, which would, in theory, still have the same type of gap. We're asking the question, how do we make up the gap? We see that it may not come from those who have voted in the primary, who are going to vote in the general. It may not come from those who are going to vote in the general, because why should we assume that everyone who did not vote in the primary, who's voting in the general, are going to only vote for Kinloch? I think that's naive and ill-informed. And so we have to see Kinloch make a play for those people who were not voting, who did not vote. Excuse me. Let me be specific here. And Kinloch's team can grab this tape. Just send me some money. Kinloch is aiming for the people who did not vote in the primary, who would otherwise have no intentions of voting in the general, if if they don't have a candidate that reaches and resonates with them. But let me tell you also what happens when you, as a candidate, which I've been, when you engage someone politically, yes, sometimes they may decide to go and vote with you. Now, that's if you touch them face to face. They may vote for you if you touch them face to face. Otherwise, if you just engage them or drop literature, you've engaged them politically, then you also run the risk of sparking their curiosity, right? So in my particular race, there were 7 people running, right? So I meet someone, and then they begin to look up who's running, and they realize that there's someone else who's running who graduated from my same high school or worked for the same union, right? And so I'm saying that to say there should be, and I said this in the previous pod, the way that you protect the lead and the way that you mount a comeback, they're two different strategies. They're two different uh, levels of urgency, and we don't see that from the Kinloch campaign. And we've seen the gap that we know he has to make up. And for those of us who understand how specifically he's going to have to aim at people, we don't see it. And so it's a fascinating thing, but that's what he's going to need to win. He's going to need a slew of endorsements. He's going to need a strategic play for people who otherwise would not vote in the general election. He's got to create and turn out some voters. And I say it specifically, you're going to need someone to help you get better talking points that resonate with people outside of the church lingo. Because at this moment, your talking points don't resonate with someone outside of the church. And then last but not least, which quite frankly, you very well may get here in the city of Detroit, because, the election is in November. The last thing that you got to have is a calamity. You've got to have something go wrong, and you've got to be able to meet the moment in a mayoral way that forces the voters to go into the voting poll with this sense of those who are in charge and those who have been in charge are incompetent. So he's going to need some type of calamity, some type of children passing in a car, some type of uh 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 uh, uh you know main breaks or pipes bursting. If he can have that type of calamity and be at ground zero as soon as the news cameras get out there and take questions and present himself in a mayoral way, then I think he can, you know, you know, man, this is a long time between now and November. I mean, election cycles are long, right? And so if you have a couple of those back-to-back calamities, um, that really, really give him the opportunity to step forward, and he steps forward, I think we could have a close race. Other than that, you let me know in the comments, and we would love for you to like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think he would need to do in order to catch up with it, because I don't. I mean, I've given him a playbook there, and you see that his surrogates don't have much to work with. They can only discredit what Mary is doing. They can't point to what they think Kinloch can do or will do. And so he just needs to brush his team up. He just needs, and that's not even a dig at the people in his team. I'm saying from the outside looking in, and I have no insight whatsoever, there is an obvious lack of diversity of thought and probably a lack of youthful voices at the time that decisions are being made. Now, you may have young staffers and you may have young people working the phones, but do you really have young people trying to decide where you're spending the money? Do you have young people deciding what issues you're going to be talking about in these campaign ads? Are you considering their voices, you know, in what you are putting in your email ads? Probably not. And it shows because your campaign is stale. Um, Mary's younger, um, but she's more visible. Her campaign is more vibrant. It's more reactive. It's more proactive. Quite frankly, it's both. Um, and I'm not naive enough to think that's Mary. I don't think that's Mary. I think it's her team. I think it's diverse. I think it's people that have probably worked on other national campaigns. I'm pretty sure this is probably all things you can research. I have not. I'm just guessing. People that have worked on different campaigns, people that have worked for different parties, people that have worked for in different parts of the country on different propositions and different fundraising and right. And so you need that diversity on your team because if you can't get it on your campaign, why should we think you can get it on your staff? You got to be a mayor now. And if you can't pull together the best talent to put together the most comprehensive and compelling campaign, then why should I think that you're going to put together the best staff to ensure that our city government works as efficiently as it possibly can? Is this how you're going to get your information out? Is this how you're going to reach out to people? Is this how you're going to present yourself? The ways you're doing it now? Because this is going to be a step back from who Mayor Mike Duggan is in visibility and in messaging and in what's the plan forward. And it's not a criticism. You still got time. It's not just a criticism. I want to see Mary be pushed. And let me tell you why I want to see Mary be pushed, even though I think she's going to win. I want to see Mary be pushed because we know in the city of Detroit, calamity's going to come. And if she's going to fold under pressure, I want to know before the election. Right? And she obviously isn't going to do any harm to herself. So you got to do it. You got to pressure her. Push her. And let's figure out what she's made of. And if she's weak, then that'll be the thing that flips us. But you got to do better, man. You got to get a better, more diverse team. Mary hasn't called me yet, so I'm still, hey, my phone's still open. But your visibility is weak. Your talking points aren't compelling. And hey, this is not about the type of mayor you will be. This surely isn't about the type of pastor that you are. You're a phenomenal pastor, and you probably would be a decent mayor, but you just suck as a candidate, my brother. And you got to do this before you can do that. So let's do this better. Because Bankolay needs the help. Bankolay's trying to feed some life into your campaign, and you're not giving them anything to work with. Let's flip gears before we leave up out of here. I want to talk about, I was talking to Willie Burton, actually, campaign. He's a candidate, rather, for City Council District 5 here in Detroit, Michigan. Willie Burton, candidate for City Council District 5 here in Detroit, Michigan. I was talking to him earlier. And I'm actually supposed to be calling him back. I was hoping to call him back a little bit earlier, but I'll probably give him a call tomorrow or send him this video. But I was talking to him, and as I was talking to him, this podcast that I listened to throughout the week came on, and they began to talk about his opponent. I want you to hear a little bit about this Renata Miller that I heard that these two gentlemen were talking about on Detroit Black and White. Kind of compelling stuff. Let's see what they got to say.
But she's running as mayor instead of for re-election there. We've got two candidates, Willie Burton, who we've had on the show, and his opponent is Renata Miller, a retired Chrysler worker, UAW member, and has gotten the endorsement of the UAW. And so the question becomes, does character and something that happened 20 years ago matter? In 2004, Miller was found guilty in Oakland County Circuit Court of domestic violence, which was a misdemeanor. During a preliminary exam, a married man who was having an affair with Miller alleged that she assaulted him outside his Oak Park home in 2003, the day after he broke up with her. She also allegedly smashed a car window out with a tire iron and threatened him with the tire iron. She got probation. In 2001, she filed for Chapter 13 personal bankruptcy. 2008, the owners of Bloomfield Hills apartment filed a forcible entry and detainer action to regain the property from her after she refused to move out. Does that matter? To me, I look at something like that and I think we're going to see somebody with a lot of drama.
Seems like it's going to be a pretty interesting race, but I want to know what you guys think about that. And this city is one of those cities where corruption's a thing, and none of that even had to do anything with corruption. And so let me be extremely mindful of how I land this plane. But what I'm saying is that corruption has to be its most prevalent with people who are emotionally erotic and people who are not good with finances, people who are just emotionally excitable. And so I think this District 5 race is going to heat up, and I think things are going to come out that we need to consider, quite frankly. We need to consider. And so yeah, let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you guys for we've been getting new subscribers and whatnot. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We live in a new society, a new age today where you don't even have you don't even have to give people money. This is the new world we live in. You can just do whatever. You can do what you're doing. Press the like button, press the subscribe button, press the share button, and go on about your day. And what you've done is you've supported what we're doing. You've shown the powers that be that this is something that we want to spread further, and then they take that and it spreads like wildfire. So your likes and your shares and your subscribes, your